Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Harris Bard for Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London, and in today's video, another look around all the beautiful fish we've got in our North West London fish house, and maybe a look at everything else that came in this week. Let's get into it. So if you're a regular viewer, I'm sure you're getting tired of hearing this. But for those of you that are new here at Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London, we do things a little bit differently. We keep our fish house continent by continent. This is for educational purposes. We usually have schools coming in, and it also helps us to explain and educate our customers on where their fish come from in the world. But without further ado, when you first come into our fish house and you walk in, on the left-hand side, we have our South American range. Immediately when you come in, we have our live bearers. We didn't get anything in new this week. However, just to talk you through, we usually have a mixture of things like swordtails, platies, mollies, all of those good things that you would expect. Moving down in the fish house, further down into South America, we typically keep a lot of our tetras. Up here we have things like lemon tetra, green neons, neon tetra, bloodfin tetra. We also have things like rummy nose and cardinals. Everything we keep here at Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London is captive tank bred, and we are keeping them in London tap water. So you can be sure that when you take your fish home, you don't have to worry about adjusting your parameters, although it's always a good idea to test the water that you get from your local fish house, or ask them what their parameters are, just in case you are on a different water board from that fish house, so that you don't have any stark differences from moving fish from a fish house into your tank at home. It's always just good practice as a fish keeper to keep an eye on those things so that you're not stressing your fish out. That being said, a lot of our locals are all on the same water board, so they can be sure that they are going to have fish that are already acclimated to our London tap water, and it's not going to be an issue for their fish to stress out. All of our tetras have been in for a few weeks now. They are looking extraordinarily healthy. Everything is big and fattened up and ready to be taken home this Easter weekend. Additionally, we always keep things like cory catfish, whether that's juliais, pandas, sterbies. We also have things like similis, corydorus, and on the other side we have inculcanas, which are a slightly rarer breed, and it's quite rare to find them tank bred, but as I said, most everything here at Pond Life Aquatics is a tank bred species. Now, moving on to the new things that we have in South America, and I always talk about them even though they are a relatively common species to be kept. We have our Otis cinclus, and we didn't manage to get the marinades in, I don't believe. These are aphins, which are just a gorgeous species, probably the most common species of Otis cinclus that you're going to find. They prefer to be kept in larger groups. I have had discussions with so many customers where they say that they've had one or two Otis cinclus and they don't get along with them, they just disappear over time. And the piece of advice that I'll always give with keeping Otis cinclus is try and keep them in bigger shoals. I don't recommend them for some smaller nano aquaria like a lot of fish keepers might. I think that keeping Otis cinclus, it's always better to keep them in groups of 10 or 12, where they will really show off their shoaling sensibilities, and you'll find that you'll actually get a lot more out of them as a species. I feel like people go wrong where they keep an Otis cinclus solitary and they get stressed out. They are a very communal species where they need to be kept alongside other Otis cinclus, and in doing so, you will just get more out of them, you'll get better algae eating, and you'll realize that they are just a species that is worthwhile keeping completely on their own. They are gorgeous when kept in big enough groups. The next thing that we got in South America is we got a couple of pairs of Apistograma Borelli Paraguays. We have been trying to get these guys in again for weeks and weeks at this point, and finally we managed to only get a couple. We put quite a few more in the order, but they just didn't come in, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. That's been the way it has been with a few orders this week, but I'll discuss that again a little bit later on. But Apistograma Borelli Paraguays, what a gorgeous species of fish. Amazing South American species if you are looking to get something that's a little bit different, something that's a showpiece, and something that you can actually quite readily breed in captivity. Apistogramas are so worthwhile keeping. I would love at some point to be able to set up an aquascape with lots of heavy planting, almost like a cave feature, where you can keep things like apistogramas together and they will very readily breed. Absolutely worthwhile checking out. And then when you flip over in South America to the bigger species tanks, we have our Incolacanas that I mentioned earlier, and we have our bicolor angelfish, which we didn't manage to get angels in again this week. We will be getting them next week, I swear. We keep putting them on the lists and they just do not come in, which is so unfortunate. But these bicolors have been here for a few weeks now. They're in really good nick. The Incolacanas that are in the tank with them are really, really cool. I love the way that they just sit in the corner, all lined up. They are so full of character. And then in the tank next to them, we have our Pond Life Aquatics spread, dwarf polar parrots and blue parrotfish. We've had a few people really interested in them. I think they probably do need to be kept in a species tank, although they can be kept alongside other semi-aggressive species. These guys are juveniles. They are going to grow quite significantly. You are going to need quite a big tank for them. So bear that in mind if you do decide to come down for them. And then in the tank below them, we have our hard water discus. We have 2 pigeon blood discus left. They are absolutely gorgeous. I really hope someone who has a tank that is suitable for them comes and just gives them a good home. And then I don't know what we'll do with this tank. Hopefully we'll get more discus. I'm looking at trying to get some blue cobalt hard water discus from the Czech Republic. Relatively difficult to get a hold of, quite a high cost item. And it's something that I'm not quite sure if we're willing to do the risk on, but if that's something that people are interested in, let us know. Also, just caught my eye. I think it is worth mentioning the longfin super red ancestris that we have in at the moment. They are absolutely beautiful. They're in our pygmy cory tank, and we've had a few of them sell over the past few days, and I think they are absolutely brilliant. If you are in the market for something that's a little bit more interesting than your regular longfin ancestris, we have kept whites in the past, we've kept regulars. These super red longfins are really something quite special. I would love for particularly some of our specialist breeders to maybe come and take a couple of pairs of them and get some breeding stock going. They are doing really well in London tap water, and they can obviously be kept alongside things like Corydorus, but I think having them in a specific breeding tank, they could be something really, really special. But anyway, moving on. Now, when you move down into our fish house on the left-hand side, although I have skipped out on a little section of Africa, but I'll get back to that later on. We have our Asian species, and we got quite a few really, really nice species in this week. We got in this top tank some Galaxy koi females. Finally, after weeks and weeks of trying to get more of these guys in, we have Galaxy female bettas. And these are absolutely a best seller for Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London. And you can tell why just by looking at them. They are absolutely amazing. We only got a few of them in. We don't like overstocking tanks here. That's something we also do a little bit differently. As a fish house, when you go to a lot of fish stores, you will notice that they tend to cram a lot of fish into inappropriately sized tanks. And although we don't have ideal tankage for some of our species. We are still a store. We try not to overstock in the same way that a lot of stores will, and we find that our customers tend to appreciate that. They get high quality fish that are kept well and are behaving in really good ways. So these guys have settled in really beautifully. They've really colored up. I'm gonna get some B-roll tomorrow once they've colored up even more for you guys. Below them, we have our torpedo barbs. Again, they're really fattening up, getting bigger. We're hopefully going to move them into our dedicated barb tanks once they've got a bit more meat on their bones, and they are really, really getting there. In the tank next to them with our glass catfish, we've got some really bold looking blue cobalt gouramis, and they are just such a cool species of fish. If you've never kept dwarf gouramis, they are rivals to keeping something like a Betta. They have these big bold colors that they can be kept together. And I think at this eye level where they have this pop of blue springing out to you, they really are going to go quickly. So if you were in the market, some really gorgeous dwarf gourami, we've got you covered. And then if you want something a bit more diminutive, underneath them, we have our sparkling gourami back in stock. I'm going to be taking home 2 today for one of my little nano tanks at home because I absolutely adore sparkling gourami. They are a diminutive species of fish that are just so full of character. They've got these bright blue eyes that peek out from little hiding spaces that I think just do so well in densely planted aquaria. So absolutely worthwhile coming and seeing those guys. In the tank next to them, we got in fresh Kabutoi Rasbora, bright green neon ras is what they are commonly called. Neon Rasbora are a amazing little fish, great little diver species, definitely worthwhile checking out. And then obviously we have our white cloud mountain minnows, we've got our Harlequin Rasbora, we've got Pakistani loach that I mentioned last week, and then we still have lots of other species of dwarf gouramis, emerald eye Rasbora, and we're looking really well stocked in Asia at the moment. All kinds of Danios, all kinds of Anabantids. Yeah, looking really, really good on this side, and there's still more newness to come. And then moving down into the end of our fish room, physically, not the end of the tour, we have our dedicated barb tanks and our dedicated goldfish tanks. In our barb tanks, we typically keep things like longfin cherry barbs, gold rosy barbs. One of my personal favorite fish are pentazoa barbs, which are these diminutive little 5-banded barbs. Although I think someone has taken the vast majority of them, we do have about 6 or 7 left. Really worthwhile keeping. In the tank next to them, we have these really awesome looking green metallic tigers alongside regular tigers and their cousins, Odessa barbs. Below them, we have some really gorgeous red Ryukin, which are just your typical goldfish, effectively. They are a fancy goldfish with these gorgeous big tails. They do need quite a big tank, like all goldfish do, but definitely worthwhile keeping. And then the tank next to them, we have some high-grade orandas, whether that be red cap orandas or panda orandas. These guys are still juveniles. They are quite small, but they are really, really high grade. They are beautiful. We got them in from one of our suppliers last week. They've settled in really nicely and people have been really, really enjoying them. So if you keep goldfish in London and you want some high grade orandas, we have these guys ready to go in stock. Now, moving on. Now, as you can see, we have been incredibly busy here at Pond Life Aquatics at Tropical Fish London. We have sold tank after tank and so many fish and had so many new visitors. So thank you to everyone who's been coming in. We are a family business and we love what we do, and we're just loving the fact that people are enjoying everything we do here. We're trying to keep fish in a way that we want to keep fish and provide people with service that is good and leaves them with a good taste in their mouth. So please come down. If you have been hesitant for whatever reason, just come down. We would love to see you. That being said, in this area this week, we have our dedicated Siamese fighting fish range. Everything's just been serviced, so it's all looking a little bit murky, but it will all settle down tomorrow, ready for when I have B-roll for you guys. In this tank here, we have orange Ridley shrimp, which are just so cool. I love Ridley shrimp. For those of you who don't know what Ridleys are, they are a type of Neocaridina dividi, which is also known as cherry shrimp. And they have the crisscross pattern of white or clear with their colors. So typically people like things like crystal reds, which are not Neocaridina dividi, they are cardinas, which are slightly more difficult to keep, but anyway, I digress. Ridley shrimp are Neocaridina, so they are as easy as cherry shrimp to keep, and they have these really interesting patterns. And these Ridleys are absolutely gorgeous. We got them in two different colors. We got some blues and we got some oranges. So if you were in the market for some really nice looking Ridley shrimp, we are the place to be. We have this little aquascape that I've done that it's developing a little bit of algae, but I have been doing some maintenance on it in the past few days. I'm going to continue doing maintenance on it. It's not fully cycled yet, so we haven't got space for cleanup crew in there, but hopefully the cycle will finish in the next couple of days. I can get some ram's horns in there, Neocaridina in there, and get it tidied up the good old-fashioned way of cleanup crews. In the tank next to them, we have Haku Madaka rice fish, which I am still so surprised are here. Haku Madakas are really quite a rare species of fish. They're quite difficult to get a hold of. I absolutely love them. If I had the space at home, I would have taken the lot and be breeding them right now. So if you love rice fish as much as I do, then definitely come and take these guys home. I do not know how they are still here. And then we have our dedicated Siamese fighting fish range. We got a new candy koi male in, and he's just absolutely beautiful looking. Hopefully we'll sell some fighters over the next couple of days and we'll be getting fresh stock in, but everything we have in the moment is really healthy, really happy. Another week where we've unfortunately not got anything new in Australia, but we do have everything that you would expect from Australian biomes. We do have some more interesting things like our blue-eyed rainbows. They are absolutely beautiful. They'd be great for a little nano Australian biome. If you're looking for something a bit bigger, we have our red rainbows. They're really starting to color up. They're looking really, really beautiful. We got a few males, a few females. So if you're looking to breed red rainbows, these guys are definitely worthwhile checking out. We've also got our neon blue dwarf rainbow fish and our peacock gudgeon in the tanks below. And then below that, because sometimes we do scatter around species that aren't strictly from the correct continents, we have some snails down there. We've got our Himalayan rabbit snails in the bottom tank. And it's worth mentioning that we have a full range of cleanup crews throughout Asia, mixed in with some South America. We've got ram's horn snails, we've got neorite snails, Himalayan snails, and we've got obviously things like mono shrimp, Neocaridina. So if you are looking for cleanup crews, this is a great place to be. And then moving into Australia, we have done a slight rescape on our African cichlid tank to give a few more caves and spaces to stop any over-aggression, and we found a really nice balance in this tank. We've not got over-aggression, we've obviously got some aggression. They're African cichlids, they're murderous little bastards, but they are all looking really, really beautiful. We've got things like dragon blood peacocks, we've got yellow labs, we've also got a few other species of cichlids scattered around in tanks to avoid too much aggression in that tank. In terms of newness in Africa, we got in some golden Occelatus Lamprologus, which, as you guys know, I absolutely adore Occelatus Lamprologus. They are such a cool species of Tanganyikan fish where they can be kept in smaller nano aquaria in breeding pairs. They can be kept in about 60 litre, which would be so cool to keep a Tanganyikan species only tank. Next to them, we have our Lamprologus Occelatus oranges. These guys have really settled in. Such an interesting species of fish. Definitely worthwhile for another Tanganyikan species tank. And then below them, we've got our African longfins, Congo tetras. We've had those in for a few weeks now, or is it even months now? And they are really just such an awesome fish. Congo tetras are one of my favorite species of tetra. One day, I hope I can have like a 400-liter Congo tetra only tank, just fully planted, full-blooded. It would be such an amazing spectacle. But I digress. In the tank next to them, we got some really awesome armored fan shrimp, which, if you guys don't know, they are a species of shrimp that literally their only defense is fans. They are filter feeders. They are so peaceful as a species. So if you've got a nice little bit of flow in your tank, they will typically sit within that flow and just feed really slowly with their fans. They are really awesome to keep, although sometimes people find you'll put them into a tank and they'll just hide, because they obviously don't have a predatory bone in their body. They have this massive armor which protects them from predation, but they would obviously rather not be predated at all. So if you are going to keep them in a tank, keep them with really non-aggressive, non-boisterous species, and you'll get the best out of them. Then in the tank below, we have our African dwarf claw frogs. We've had people really interested in the dwarf claw frogs. We've had a few people actually ring up specifically and come in specifically for dwarf claw frogs. I think there might be something going on with TikTok at the moment where people are really becoming quite obsessed with them, which is fine by me. I think they are so cool as a species to keep. They're like a little bit blind and a little bit weird, but definitely fun and just cool to keep in their own specialized tank. And then just flipped across from them that I walked past earlier to get into Asia, we have our Crebensis, which are still full breeding colors. They are very cool. Sold quite a few this week, and hopefully people will take some more. I will admit that Crebensis, for me personally, just weren't a thing for a long time. I didn't like the ones my colleague kept bringing in because we just didn't have the tank space to be keeping cribs. But now we have this fish house and I'm just really quite falling in love with Crebensis. I think they are such a cool diminutive species of African cichlid that are so timid and fun to watch, and they've got this way about them where they just hide away and then poke their heads out and then hide away and poke their heads out. And it's also just so full of different dynamics within the community, where some of them are super boisterous and fun and looking for food, while some of them are also just hiding, which is really just cool to watch. And anyway, I'm rambling about Crebensis, but we still have these guys in. They're still in breeding colors. If you are looking to have a fun breeding project, these guys are definitely worthwhile doing. And then in terms of the plant tank, today we found out that we're not going to be getting our regular plant order in for Easter weekend, which is so frustrating. However, my best friend has an amazing tropical tank and is going to be overhauling a whole bunch of Limnophilia sessiflora. So we are going to be potting that up and putting it in store. I'm going to be ransacking my own personal aquariums for things like Cryptocorin, Anubias, Thalassonaria. We've also got a whole bunch of really well-rooted lotus, so Nymphia, Tiger Lotus, that's going to be going into the tank tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to show all of you guys that as I'm doing it. So although we've not got fresh plant coming in terms of an aquaflow or an aquadip or a tropical order, we are having London-grown, Pond Life own brand planting ready for the Easter weekend, which in my opinion is just as good. So I know I said earlier that I was going to show off all of the orders that came in. We only got our Oasis order in, which is dry goods. We got some interesting stuff for ponds, and I am going to be going to Oasis really soon to show off all of their amazing gear. Oasis are our favorite wholesaler we've been using for years. They're just really great guys. Unfortunately, we didn't have Aquaflow in. We didn't get our J&K hardscape, So we're going to make a trip out to probably Oasis, and we will just load up the van ready for the workshop. Unfortunately, we are going to have to push the workshop back. I have messaged the people who've already paid, but that is going to be going on not next Sunday, but the Sunday afterwards. So the beginning of May Bank Holiday Sunday. So if you were worried about the dates and couldn't do the timings, then absolutely you can now come to that workshop. The tickets will be updated later on today and they are still available. And if you wanted to do a slightly bigger aquarium, just message us and I will adjust the price accordingly for you. My friend Ray, who is here,
Hello.
He came in absolutely clutch with plants for us. So
About a kilo of plant.
we've sorted him out with some really, when I was talking about I don't understand how no one's taken the Medaka rice fish. He's taken some of the Medaka rice fish. He's having some of the Galaxy Raz. He's taking the Betta that is out of my El Capitan aquascape. And yeah, he's really sorted out the plant tank for this weekend. There's still more plant that I need to sort out tomorrow when I get more planting material, but he's really sorted us out for Easter weekend. We've got loads of outdoor plants, but I know people switch off when I do the outdoor stuff. So for now, that's all from me here at Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London. My name's Harris Bard. This is Ray Roberts. And I hope
I'm on the news.
you are. And I hope you'll join me again next time for this Pond Life.
Come buy some plants.
Yeah.
Homegrown stuff. Organic.